Time now to take a look at what's making headlines in newspapers across the world. And with us to do that, scouring them all, is Belle Lupton. A good day to you again, Belle. Across the European papers, Greece still taking the headlines.
It is, and we'll start in Greece with how the Greek papers, or what is left of the Greek newspapers, because of course a lot of them have had to fold, and what they're saying about this crisis. So the daily Ephemerida, on its front page, reminds readers in its headline that Tsipras needs at least 120 votes on Wednesday, when the Greek Parliament has its next vote on that next tranche of reforms that are demanded by Greece's creditors. Without that, it says, we will fall. So if Tsipras doesn't get those votes, we will fall. The liberal daily Eleftheros Typos focuses on the measures themselves, or part of those measures. It says, it has the headline, retirement age upheaval, VAT mess. So obviously you know what it thinks about some of those measures. And the daily Tanea turns the lens back on Europe with a headline, Brussels is voting. They're betting on whether Greece will soon be holding parliamentary elections. Now, that's, of course, a reference to the fact that if Tsipras doesn't get those 120 votes, he may need to step aside, because that's the threshold that he would need in a vote of no confidence.
OK, well, let's turn our attention back to Europe as well. What are those papers saying outside of Greece?
Yeah, so in France, the tabloid Le Parisien takes quite an interesting angle, and they look quite specifically at Tsipras, this man who promised the Greeks that he would unlock the coffers of the country's international creditors, and now he's asking them to make even more financial sacrifices. Is it a U-turn? Is it political weakness? Well, Le Parisien asks what on earth is going on inside the head, la tête de Tsipras. To answer that question, it goes to Athens and it talks to some of his political colleagues. And if you believe some of Tsipras's so-called political friends, Tsipras is above all a lion, but within the body of a gentle family Labrador. Now, Tom Tolles in the Washington Post, so here now in the US, has this cartoon which shows a sort of blood bank scenario. You've got Europe draining a ruined Greece. There you go, that's the cartoon. So you've got there Europe as this kind of blood collector, sucking into Greece. The plan says we're to collect 2 litres per day, obviously trying to follow this new austerity plan.
OK, well, let's move on to another story now. It's one we've been covering here on France 24. It's the first for the African continent. African judges ruling on another former leader of one of the countries of the continent, Hissene Habré, but he hasn't been in the press for quite a while.
No, and if you hadn't been watching France 24, you might be forgiven for not knowing the name of Hissene Habré or who he was. He is obviously the dictator of Chad between 1982 and 1990, and he's now splashed all over the front page of Libération here in France. It's because he is finally, a quarter of a century on, being taken to court for crimes against humanity, for potential war crimes that he committed. And what Libération focuses on in an editorial is the fact that it's not the International Criminal Court in The Hague that he's facing, nor is it a UN tribunal, but instead it's a pan-African court. So this is in Dakar, and it's the first time, they say, that a tyrant will be forced to respond to crimes against humanity in front of an African Union court. Le Figaro also, it's interesting, picks up this story, highlighting France and the US's roles in supporting Habré. He was used apparently as a pawn by Ronald Reagan to counter Gaddafi. Interestingly, you will not find this covered very much at all. In fact, I've not found it in the US press. They seem to have forgotten the story. OK, interesting, Belle. Now, you've also found a story about the British royal family that erupted over the weekend. Yes, so we haven't talked about this in the press review because it happened over the weekend, and it's dragging on and on and on. This is a home video that was showing the Queen, the British Queen, aged 7, practicing a Nazi salute with her uncle. Now, the Daily Mail, keen to drag out the saga for just a few more days, has gone with a headline essentially showcasing a new TV documentary which is set to reveal how Prince Philip's sister met and admired Hitler. 3 of Philip's sisters, this is Prince Philip, the Queen's husband, were married to senior Nazi officers, and when he attended a family funeral in Germany, apparently he was greeted or confronted by a row of Nazi Heil Hitler salutes.
OK, well, we'll have to leave it at that, Belle, but certainly lots of interesting articles to read in today's papers. Belle Lupton there with our international press review. Thanks indeed. Time for a quick break now here on France 24, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.